Georgie, 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 you have to help me. You have to help me get out of this mess.
What mess, Elena? What mess? What mess?
The mess I made, Georgie. The mess I made. The mess I made with Susan.
Susan. Susan who?
Susan who? Susan. Who? Georgie. Susan who? Susan, my old college rival. Susan, who's here at the party. Susan, who's married, successful, and pregnant. Susan, who's everything I'm not. Susan, who's always rubbing it in my face. Susan, who's always making me feel inferior. Susan, who's always spoiling my life. Spoiling my life, Georgie. Spoiling my life.
Spoiling your life.
Yeah, spoiling my life. Spoiling my life like a spoiler. A spoiler, Georgie. A spoiler, Georgie.
A spoiler? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a spoiler, Georgie. A spoiler. A piece of information that ruins the surprise or the suspense of a story. A piece of information that you can get from looking at the thickness of the pages. The thickness of the pages, Georgie. The thickness of the pages.
The thickness of the pages.
Yeah, the thickness of the pages. You see, Georgie, you see. When you read a book, you can tell how much of the story is left by looking at how thick the pages are on the right side. The thicker the pages, the more of the story there is. The more of the story there is. The thinner the pages, the less of the story there is. And sometimes, Georgie, sometimes, that can be a spoiler. That can be a spoiler, Georgie. A spoiler.
How can that be a spoiler, Elena? How can that be a spoiler? Ah!
Well, for example, Georgie, for example, let's say you're reading a romance novel. A romance novel, Georgie, a romance novel. And you're trying to figure out if the couple will end up together. If the couple will end up together, Georgie. If the couple will end up together. And you're getting close to the end. Close to the end, Georgie. Close to the end. And you look at the pages. And you see that they're very thin. Very thin, Georgie. Very thin. And you realize that there's not much of the story left. Not much of the story left, Georgie. Not much of the story left. And you think to yourself, Georgie. You think to yourself, Georgie. You think to yourself, there's only one way this can end. One way this can end, Georgie. One way this can end. And you know what that way is, Georgie. You know what that way is, Georgie. You know what that way is, Georgie. You know what that way is. You know what that way is.
What is it, Elena? What is it? What is it?
It's a happy ending, Georgie. It's a happy ending. They get together. They get married. They have babies. They have a happy ending. A happy ending, Georgie. A happy ending, Georgie. A happy ending.
Ha ha ha!